Alrighty, guys, it is 3:30. Time to wrap it up for today. And the market has been up and it's been down, and I mean, pretty much basically. Hang on a sec, guy, real quick. I thought about that. Had to tell the guy I'm going to call him back. So anyway, the market's up, way up, testing the upper end of the range this morning. Oops, that's not the way I wanted to do. And then, of course, weakness in the afternoon, all the way back down in 2 o'clock hour, we get the little change. And this is uncanny how that 2 o'clock hour works. I mean, it's solved right there, the sell-off started going sideways, and so far we haven't quite retraced. I tried a short trade on the ES here. You can see that one on against a little bit higher than the tab. The first one would have been here at the 90s, like 60s. I gave it a little bit more room. And then I got short here when it looks like you were failing to take it higher. And I sat in that for a bit, and then this went to actually to break even and stop me out. I moved the stop a little bit, so I got $5 out of that trade. That was it. And then they kept squeezing it higher. So squeeze, 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 squeeze. And that's kind of an FU type move. So this is, I guess, squeezing out the weak short. So this one would have been a 64 up to the almost a 10-point squeeze to the upside. That's kind of sucks. So most likely would I hit my stop just there if I had stayed in that trade. So I got lucky on that one. But anyway, at this point, we are kind of sideways. We're to the downside. We are below the support area I wanted to be above. So we're down here below the 80s. We belong to below the 70s, the building value. So not sure how this is going to go. The market is to the downside going into these earnings. So we're going to get the NVIDIA earnings after they close, and watch out. We'll see what happens. Not sure if someone knows something, but I guess people are taking off the money ahead of it, like little profit taking ahead of the earnings or the NVIDIA report. Crazy how one company can have such a big impact on it, but that's because it's such a big part of the Nasdaq. So anyway, but at this point, one trade on the ES, $5 on that one. That's about it. So I'm going to start off unless we get a big reaction in the overnight, because that's a big caveat. Big reaction in the on the report, and then everything could be upside down by tomorrow morning. News for tomorrow, though. If everything is like kosher and we are pretty much sideways, news for tomorrow, we got a ton of news. At 8:30, we get durable goods, we get GDP read, we get jobless claims, all at 8:30. Then at 10, we get pending home sales, nat gas report, and that's about it. So bulk of the news coming out at 8:30 tomorrow, and all that stuff could potentially move the market. So we've got that to contend with. We've got the NVIDIA earnings to contend with. So that could be an interesting dynamic across the board here. All right, so starting off range bound, I would start off with a bias to the downside. If they for some reason close above this area, I would say the 70s at this point, I was going to start range bound. If they can't get up above 70s after they close and before they close, I'm going to start off with a bias to the downside. I was expecting them to actually run it down to the 59.35. I was waiting for it, but that's why I took that short. But as you can see, they just kind of stalled, run out of gas here at support. They probed it below the 50s, but not quite made a go out of it. So pointing out how that 2 o'clock hour works like a charm. If you're going to be a directional change, this is exactly the time it usually happens. This is perfect today, though. No retracement when you started running it up to the mean. I wasn't quite expecting that this first run down here. Usually you get at least a leg lower after the first little pullback. That's why I took that short. And I was expecting them actually to run it down to the 35 to 40s, but not so far. No go. They're just kind of holding it, and now they're slowly grinding this higher. So maybe support at the 59.50 is the one which is going to be the one which held. So. But at this point, that's how we get started in the overnight. Watch that level, the 70s. If that comes out, go back range bound for the overnight. If they stay below it, stay on the short side. So one trade on the ES. I did one more trade on the Nasdaq as well. That was as well when they started running lower, like a little buying opportunity. Now this one I bought with a shitty trade location, but the reason I bought it down here, and you can see how that run it all the way down. And big move to the downside. It wasn't quite that support either, but you can see how they stalled, attempt to take it lower. They started heading back up. This usually looks like a fake out to take it lower, but they're not quite that support yet. So I was kind of hesitating. But then at this bar and this bar, you see it started, they ran this hard to the downside and then completely reversed it and started pushing higher. And I figured Okay, so here's your fake out. So I hopped on the long trade fairly aggressively on that one. I prepared to repair it down here and potentially and had my stop below it. So it's much bigger than I really wanted it to be, but it was a pretty good setup for a potential retracement trade. Went to break even and then shook me out. So maybe that's 450 on that trade. I moved my stop a little bit to the upside when I had a little bit of profit going, but didn't go very far and then just knocked me out. And that was it. So did not re-engage it since, and it just feels very volatile. So I kind of left it aside for now. And same story there. Yes, going sideways. Have not retested that low at the 21,000 yet, 21,030s. And it looks to me like we're getting a little bit of strength going into the close. So we'll see how they end up. But at this point, all eyes on Nvidia. All right. So starting off, if they trade up above, I would say the 21. At this point, the 21 150s, if they can close above that, starting off range bound and below it, stay on the short side. That's the way I would look at this. Right. So if they get up above, they actually will be the initial balance low, get back up above that level, we may have a shot at staying in the range band going into the overnight. On the bonds, look at that, flight to safety. Everyone's freaking scared shitless going into this number. Like you can tell, people are taking money off the table, preparing. There's going to be carnage. Who knows? It can go either way. It's just noise, really. I mean, any sell-off happening in reaction to this was probably a buying opportunity because I think Nvidia is selling everything they can produce. So it's like the expectations is out there, and if Algos knocks it down, so you have a little bit of money on the sidelines and get ready to purchase some. Anyway, at this point, bonds to the upside trade out on the long side of the market. Look to buy weakness, going to be an edge right here at the 1804s, at the 118s, at the 1726s. Is it trade below the 1726s? I would take off the long bias and go back range bound. And then finally, oil and gold. Oil and gold. So gold can just been holding here in that range. So they ran it lower pretty good, retraced it all the way back up again, and then hasn't gone anywhere. So they're still reverse retesting resistance here at 29.30. So unless they can get up here in the overnight above this, I think this could be a beautiful short setup for rotations back down again. So again, looking for shorts against 29.30s and the 35s for rotations back down. And if they clear that 35s, I would be back on the long side looking for a move up here to the 50s, maybe higher. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at gold to get started. And then finally, oil, not much to say about oil. That's been stuck in that range. To the downside, the building value at the prior distribution, prior edge. But you can see how sloppy that is. I hate this when it's runs up, then slowly drifts, and then big move, and it has nothing, back and forth, choppy stuff going on. So I had to trade that with a lot of caution. So that's oil, staying away from that one right now. So back to the ES. Back to the ES. So for two trades so far, one trade on the ES is short, which didn't quite work out. And I tried a long trade on the lower end of that on the NASDAQ, which didn't work out either. It shook me out. So two pretty much shakeouts going on today. $9, that's all I had to show for it. So we'll see. At this point, all eyes on Nvidia. And remember, depending on how they react to that news, initial reaction, not so, it can be whatever. Then they have the earnings call, and then they're going to be probably by tomorrow morning. We'll see how the net reaction is. So it could be an interesting day tomorrow. Alrighty, so that's what I got so far. We'll wrap it there for now, and I will see you back bright and early tomorrow morning. Yeah, have a good evening. Later.